Welcome to Stop Dieting and Start Living podcast. I am your coach, Natalia Rodriguez, and I will be guiding you to get in the best shape of your life for the rest of your life by combining my coaching experience with the psychology behind the human eating behaviors and some simple brain science. Get ready to be coached by me. Hello, dear listeners. Thank you for being here in another episode. Today I want to talk about something that once I understood how it works, it has changed my whole perspective about life. I have never been a voodoo person. I don't know about you, but I do need facts, practice, and experience to believe in things. So emotions were not something I always get along with very well. In fact, I think deep down I fear them because feeling pain is not something nice to feel, so we better avoid it, right? According to Wikipedia, and I'm quoting here, emotions are biological states associated with the nervous system brought on by neuropsychological changes variously associated with thoughts, feelings, behavioral responses, and a degree of pleasure or displeasure. And there is no more scientific data about this. I always considered myself as an emotional person. Many will say like passionate, but I think that's the wrong description. I always thought as an emotional, and now I know why. It's because I never understood that I could manage my emotions. So, in the society I grew up, it was acceptable to be emotional and take it on others. Like if I was grumpy or hungry, it was acceptable for me to be moody, and people we just had to deal with that. And that's not true. There is more than 5 emotions, for example, and I didn't know this. So this is like my lack of understanding about emotions. It does not only exist happiness, sadness, fear, surprise, or anger. There are many more feelings like anxiety, panic, unease, at ease, chill, serene, cozy, disappointed, pessimistic, to name a few. And I also used to mix these emotions with personality traits. So I was living judging myself and others by their emotions. Shocking, right? That's not who we are, because we can control our emotions. So yes, I know it's a lot to take in, and I will talk a bit more about it later. But so let me ask you something. How you actually deal with your emotions? Do you even notice them when they show up? Do you feel them, name them? You have a strategy to deal with them? Do you do something with that information? When negativity comes in your mind, for example, do you let it run over you? Do you believe in that? Have you connected your eating habits or money spending to your emotions? Or have you noticed certain emotions that maybe sabotage your goals, like causing you to make decisions that are not in line with what you want? Do you believe everything you think? If you responded yes to any of these questions, you may not know what emotions are, why they are helpful for, and how you can easily manage them. And please notice that I use the word easy, and because it is easy, but it needs your determination and willingness to step out in the fear zone to do the work, and that is when it can get messy. So let me tell you a story. I don't know about you, but I was raised to hide my emotions and pretend to be someone else, assuming that I wasn't. And I think the whole point was to force me to be happy and successful. But unfortunately, things doesn't work that way. So I was constantly told to not cry in front of others, that I needed to pretend to be okay if I wasn't. Others didn't need to know my feelings, and that apparently that will damage my image, which is supposed to be super important. I couldn't say what I was thinking, or asking questions was not always well accepted. It may look like I was being rude. So always I had to accept other opinions, ideas, rules, especially if they were older than me. This difficulted a lot my social skills or the opportunity to bond with people. I was told I always needed to look pretty and perfect. I never asked what that meant. So my assumption was always show up showered, well-dressed, smiley, happy, and with makeup. I was told I needed to fight and never give up. I was told that things needed to be hard. And if I wasn't talented, maybe look for something else or just get a job with a good pay and stop complaining. I was told that when things are doing well, something bad is coming. And so many other things that I think that you may got the point. For a person like me, this didn't work very well. On the contrary, it only took me to the opposite direction from the path of finding my real self. Because as long as I have memory, that was my big question, who I was. Because I learned to be very good following rules, so I accepted those things as my ultimate truth. And I also learned that to be either one way or another, like black or white mentality. So there was never space to live in a gray area. So it always had to be one thing or the other. I remember very well when I got married the first time in 2005. No clue what I was doing. Feeling lost, but with the conviction that I only wanted to know who I was. So maybe following this guy's dream will end up mine too. Well, it wasn't. And that action only got me into more confusion, hurt him. And since marriage meant understand the counterpart and build something together, there is a catch. Because that becomes damn hard when you don't have a clue of what you want. So at the end, you only build something on a very shaky foundation, so it won't be never real or fulfilling to you. And you may end up having a not pleasant life and living in regret of what you want versus how things went. And so this applies for everything in life. Honestly, clarity is super important, especially when we made such big commitments. And because I always lacked of clarity, instead of accepting that and trying my best to experience life, I ended up looking for signs everywhere else outside of me, letting my boss take decisions for me if I should have a promotion, stay or leave the company, or if this guy wants to date me, maybe he's the one. So I gave the powers always to external things to rule my world, finding myself constantly disappointed and miserable. As I said before, I was very good at following rules. So I just lived the checking box life. You know, that one that about the husband, check, career, check, good job, car, house, stability, money, beauty. So that was my constant pursuit. That was the life we're supposed to have, right? So there I was again, finding the things I didn't want. Maybe that was the whole point, although I was definitely not having any fun. I remember I quitted my job and started traveling to many places almost 10 years ago. Believing those places were the problem. Believing the people around me were the problem. But I never imagined that the solution and the problem was always been inside of me the whole time. Until one day, after 20 years, I woke up sabotaging again a wonderful life I had. That many will say it was wonderful. Living in London, a dream city, living with a wonderful and caring man, being young and pretty, but totally empty, hopeless, and without any willingness to live. Obsessed about my body shape and only thinking about food and exercise. Pretty sad life, eh? I mean, you may say, oh, poor girl, having it all and not appreciating it. Another person with these issues. What a shallow person. Well, sadly, yes. And that also was the part of the problem. I spent my whole life giving value to things I truly didn't give a shit. But I didn't know better. It was not only about the clothes I was wearing or the car I was driving. I was sick of all of that. And not because I have them. It's because perhaps I didn't want them in the first place. If someone else planted that idea in my head, beginning with, I remember having burned out every 3 months for over the last 3 years. Until that week, when spring was starting, a week where I was feeling more tired and sick than usual. Somehow I thought for many months before about what I could do to change my state. But you know, answers don't come up instantly. But that week, out of nowhere, I found myself every morning staying in bed as long as I could, avoiding to get up. I felt it was not depressed as I used to be, like before. I felt a different feeling. I felt empty in a way that nothing really mattered anymore. And I had a sensation of stillness. And I thought, well, if I didn't exist, things wouldn't change either. So on that day, I start questioning things. What was the point of life? What do I have to wake up every day for? What's the point of all what I do? I couldn't find meaning to anything at all. I mean, I didn't feel like killing myself. I did consider it, but I noticed that wouldn't help or change anything. So ending my life didn't feel right. And somehow those feelings and thoughts gave me the idea to start searching for answers. And from there I start talking and finally listen to people. Because that's something I never did. I never listened to anyone. I heard, but I never listened. Somehow I ended up signing up for a personal development group that it wasn't called that way. Otherwise, I wouldn't never join. It was something with mindset or whatever from a great guy named Tom Blue, the CEO of the protein bars Quest. I don't know if you know him. He showed up in my YouTube channel with some videos about brain science, beliefs, mindset that I instantly felt hooked up on. Okay, and why I'm telling you all of this? Because after a lot of researching, I learned that the magic of life, purpose and fulfillment, weight loss, success, achieving goals, or whatever you want in life has been always inside of you. And believe me, I heard this before. And maybe as you, I was super skeptic about this. I also kind of accepted that I didn't have to know all the answers. And that I noticed that if I study, research, and look for help, like therapy or whatever, it would be an option too. Because I used to believe and I assume that I needed to know it all. But studying a bit about the brain, I understood the power of it and how it's an amazing muscle that I neglected to train. And I used to do this with the rest of my body. And I think I thought about doing it with my brain too, but I never followed my gut, so I ignored it as many other things. So these, for example, explain my obsession about my body, my food, exercise, because I was feeling empty and lost. So I didn't have any other focus. Having clarity of what I want or what makes me feel good should be my starting line point. Because what we think about, we bring about. It took me time to get here. It has been a year since then, and I feel I still have a long way to go. Or you know what? I felt like I don't care anymore, but it's not in that way. It's like I don't want to even think about it anymore. I just live confident. I want to live confident day by day with a small plan, because believe it or not, we live in the future. I mean, it's the present moment, but we live in the future because all the things you do have an impact. And I live now with some sense of calmness and confidence that the things will be fine because I'm doing what fulfills me. So I'm building like a sense of no fear of the future because I'm trying day by day to take care of the things that I can control, like my health, my relationships, people I care about, having fun. So with some effort in my mind, I am pursuing and pushing myself to do the things I want to do. Not what I have to do or I should be doing. Because when I do these things, I question them. Is this taking me where I want? Is this something that fulfills me, makes me feel good about myself? If not, I try to change it. And as crazy as this sounds, the limitation has always been in my mind. My husband questioned these thoughts because he says that it's easy for me to say because I already have a good life. Like, meaning I live in a free country, I have a roof under my head, food on the table. But I do believe that no matter where we are and where we start, when we accept where we are and get clear, we can start making changes. Think about Nelson Mandela living in prison for 27 years. Still fought and never stopped believing in the power in himself. And all of that was in his mind. He had that power in him. So there is nothing new about this. Since human existence, this is a fact. There are no superhumans, just people that make their minds work for them, not against them. But with comfort, our generation, we started to neglect this and let us drive into the easy highway, believing on everything we hear and whatever others said or what we see on TV or the movie. And it's not that we need scientific data to prove every thought we have, but at least try it out and see what happens and give it some thought, how it feels. If it doesn't feel right for you, have the courage to change it. You don't need to live with that feeling ever. I never knew this. Nobody told me this. I have a good friend that has become a recent mother. And she was having bad days, really bad days, because she was feeling bad about leaving her baby to go to work. And I asked her, why you feel bad about it? So she says to me, well, I feel bad that I'm not this good and perfect mom, the one that you see in the movies, the one everyone talks about. And I asked her why she was feeling bad about. And she says, well, I'm not this super mom, that one that wants to be with her son 100% of the time. I feel selfish wanting to have some time for myself. I mean, this really got me thinking. So I questioned her again. Do you think it's healthy to be 100% of the time with the baby? Are you happy that way? And then she says, of course, no. A couple of minutes after, she just gasps and realized that those feelings she was experiencing were actually, yes, unreal. Coming from a story she has built in her head. Do you see it? Being 100% time with the kid didn't mean you were a bad or good mom. That was a belief. There was something in her head. But she never questioned that. She always questioned herself, making her feel bad. And you know what? Impacting her days. Feeling neglected, bad mom. Around with her kid, miserable, not enjoying anything, not enjoying life as it was, not enjoying her job, not enjoying her kid. You see, we feel bad most of the time for things that aren't necessarily true. And I'm not saying that this works for everything at all, but that's how you can learn to live in the gray area, taking each emotion and thought at the time. That is how you can build a more easy life on you. There is no shortcut or magic thing for this. And before you get overwhelmed, because I got overwhelmed, because I thought like I have so many things I want to change, but it's not about changing. It's just take one action a day and thought at the time. Sense your emotions, go by day. Learn about your feelings, what they mean. And you don't need to have all the answers. Search. We have nowadays so much possibility to search. Use that works for you. Caring about what others think about me was super important. I never questioned that. I thought that this was like a rule for the world. Everyone had to like me. But I don't give a shit about that anymore. And it's not about that. It's like I just stopped thinking about it. I think and I want to believe that I just want to be me every day. And yes, some may like it. Some others won't. But I live happier just thinking that I don't need to prove myself to anybody. I like myself, and that's only that it should matter. And this was from those false beliefs. We never question, and we just let it run in our heads. And maybe you even stop thinking about it, but you believe it, and it's so ingrained that you don't realize that you believe on those things. So it may be in the way you were raised, and that's why we don't question them in the first place. We are scared of judging others, but we are not. I'm not judging anyone. I'm just trying to be better for me. And you can unlearn all of these. And that's why emotions are so damn important. Because they show up like fire alarms in your body, like hunger, cold, wanting to pee or poo. They are symptoms of stuff that help us and guide us. And from the old beliefs I learned through my life, I was constantly feeling bad about myself. And I was always felt that my life was shitty. I was never good enough. The belief, for example, that only exists one type of beauty, that thin is beautiful, better, lighter, and happy. It's simply wrong. But it is so ingrained in us. We prefer to feel bad about ourselves than to question if that is even real. Like other many beliefs that only make us feel bad about ourselves on daily basis. And that's simply wrong. I want to invite you to not tolerate that. I know it takes time. And if you're not ready to hear this message, you may think I'm crazy. But maybe in 10 years' time, you will be ready. And you will understand what I mean. The point is, emotions are your internal guide. When something doesn't feel okay or something feels too good, we simply don't trust and we tend to oppress it and run away from it. So today I ask you to not to do that. Feelings won't hurt you. They are just alarms. They are just signs, like a fire alarm in your house. When something is on fire, you need to know, so you just put it out, right? So it's the same with feelings and emotions. Have the courage to let your emotions go out. Be kind to you. Let it show you the way. Depending on the situation, give yourself a couple of minutes, hours, sometimes days to figure out what's going on. But don't get fooled by others. We are all different. So remember that. Teach this to your kids. Feelings are alright, doesn't make you good or bad person. You will figure it out. And when emotions pop up, just question them. What were you thinking at the moment? What were you doing before? With who were you? Something must trigger you. Nothing needs to change now. Just become more aware. And remember, something important. Allowing yourself to feel the emotion doesn't mean explode things against others. You must know you can't control your emotion. That is something I didn't know either. Usually in my culture, when people get upset, the rest has to deal with it. Like when the boss is having a bad day, well, we all ended up having a bad day. That was the rule. And still, for many, is the rule. Or when I was hungry, I was allowed to be cranky and grumpy. Well, that's not okay. No matter what culture we live in. It is time to make a change for a better world one day, when people can act being genuine without having to pretend or fake who they are to get somewhere. We can stop this and help new generations to thrive in a better world. I know it may seem stupid for many, or why we should care about a world that we will never see or live in. But others will, the kids of our kids perhaps, hopefully. Why not to try? Either way, there is nothing to lose, and at least for me, you and the people who resonate with me can have a better life starting from today. And if you still have 30, 40, 50 years left to live, there's still a long time. It is never too late to start making your days better because, what you're experiencing is just right now, this moment, right? So why not to make nice moments more often? That is how I feel right now. Finally living with a purpose, because besides trying to make the life of others better, I do want to believe that we're alive to experience life and make the most of it. Remember, zero tolerance to negativity. That means if you get negative thoughts, your whole experience will be negative. So one little thing goes wrong and you let the negativity thought stay in your mind. And it kinda end up ruining your day, your mood, relationships. Don't let those marinate in there. You gotta fight to keep them positive. And I heard this from Mel Robbins when I was recording this podcast, so I wanted to include it here because she's amazing. If you haven't heard about her, I will put the link to her Instagram below. And I am dying. If you like or not this episode, please comment on Instagram, send me an email, or just message your thoughts. I just want us to be better. And a few tips to manage your thoughts and your emotions is just pay attention to them. Name them. I downloaded an app to track constantly how I'm feeling, and it helps me because it guides me. I also put the link about the app on the episode notes. And talk about your emotions. Don't be scared of sharing your thoughts with your best friend, with your social media, with people you don't know, whatever. Or journal. That's a great idea. I always recommend this because, if you don't have anyone to talk to, well, talk to yourself. Talk to the plants. But let them out. Find the reason why they are there. Or why not? Find some therapy. Not all therapy is right, so find someone that can understand you. Get the opportunity to connect with the person and find a good therapist. And I think that will help you. And do not believe in your thoughts. I believe in you. Thank you for listening, and I hope you liked this episode. And if you did, please leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. That will support my cause, that is to impact as many of you to stop dieting and start living. For more information, you can find the link in the episode notes. I am also very active on Instagram, where you will find tons of information. Have a great one. Lots of love. Your coach, Na.